Welcome and thank you for joining us today for Fast Track AIOps Automation with Prebuilt Databots. My name is Raleigh Gould and I will be the moderator for today's event. Our featured speakers are Valerie O'Connell, Research Director at EMA, Bhaskar Krishnamsetty, Chief Product Officer at CloudFabrix, and Tejo Prayaga, Senior Director at CloudFabrix. Valerie came to EMA with decades of senior level experience in the effective marketing of technology. She excels at making the value proposition of complex products clear in crowded markets and at equipping sales forces to strike with precision. Bhaskar has 25 years of experience in technology leadership, engineering, marketing, and product management. At CloudFabrix, he is responsible for setting the strategic direction with the key focus on product development and organizational planning. Tejo is a high-growth product management and marketing leader, helping technology companies build, scale, and market solutions that make a difference through the use of modern technologies like data automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, microservices, cloud services, and more. And before I hand things over to today's featured speakers, I wanted the audience to know that the speakers will be concluding today's presentation by taking your questions. Feel free to log them anytime by using the Q&A functionality. Also, today's event is being recorded and you will receive a follow-up email from EMA with resources from today's event. So I hope you will check that email out. And now I'd like to go ahead and turn things over to our first featured speaker, Valerie O'Connell. Valerie?
Thank you, Raleigh, and thank you everyone for joining us today. My portion of this conversation is going to be setting some of the stage with research that EMA has done on this topic. Some of the background research that we're looking at includes, first of all, EMA did an AIOps radar report in Q4 of 2020, in which we did a deep dive looking at 17 of the top AIOps vendors, CloudFabrix being one of them, and took a look at the offerings, the capabilities, the roadmaps, and talked in depth with deployments. So then we had a very good idea of, all right, what's out there from a vendor point of view? The next logical step was to go out to the field and find out how AIOps is being actually implemented today at the field level. So in Q2 of this year, we did a global survey of IT professionals that had employees more than 5,000. So this research skews a little towards the larger organization, but field conversations show that a lot of the findings are hold true for many different sizes. The first thing that we took a look at was, what does the term AIOps mean to you? As professionals in the field, the press, the media, and analysts like myself tend to use words and assume that everybody means the same thing. When out in the field, it may land a lot differently. So we asked, what does the term AIOps mean to you? For 35% or so, it meant AI and machine learning. Another 25% or 26% think it's automation, whereas 31% say it's automation and AI. And the fact of the matter is that for most people, when you talk about AIOps, you are talking about automation, because after all, what's the sense of knowing something if you can't do anything about it? AI is the brains of the operation, but automation is the brawn, it's the muscle. So more than half of the respondents directly associate AIOps with automation. And in the field, it's almost universal. More than 50% of the respondents state that automation is a C-level initiative. That means funding as well. And interestingly, AIOps alone only rated a 32% response that it was strategic. And in the research that we've done, the highest outcomes happen when both AIOps and automation are viewed as strategic. So if we're talking about automation, we ask what automations are supported by AIOps. And you can see here, the numbers don't add up to 100 because on most of these questions that you'll be seeing, people were allowed to choose more than one option. And in fact, the high-performing groups, those who were extremely successful with AIOps, tended to select more automations and to do so at a higher rate. You'll see that the very top is workflow across IT. When you think of workflow across IT, in this case, 60% of the respondents put it as their number one response. You're talking about multi-functions, multi-domains, and multi-data types. In terms of automating, we know that automation is not exactly everybody's cup of tea right to begin with. The C-suite loves automation for all kinds of obvious reasons, mostly cost cutting. But down at the field level, people are afraid of AI and they don't trust automation. As people have experience with automation, they want more of it. As trust grows, so does implementation. So as we say, like success breeds success, automation breeds automation. Now, I'm not going to go through these lists. You see here that I say AIOps serves a lot of masters. On the left, we have the list of IT stakeholders, cross-domain, supported by AIOps. And on the right, we have non-IT stakeholders who are supported through AIOps. And I think you're going to be able to get these slides afterwards. You can read these at your leisure. But the fact of the matter is that all AIOps implementations impact an awful lot of stakeholders, both IT and non-IT. That's both part of the challenge and that's part of the reward as well. Let's see. Yep. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't skip a slide. We asked people, what are the benefits that you've achieved so far from AIOps? And you'll see that there are a long list of them. Most people cited 3 to 4 areas of AIOps benefits. These are IT benefits. And at the top of the list, in a direct tie, which is really kind of no surprise, is DevOps effectiveness and cloud. But we go through operational efficiencies and a long list of IT benefits. Likewise, we asked what are the business benefits as a direct result of AIOps, and you see here there are an awful lot of business benefits as well. Increased IT business alignment leads the list. And in fact, one of the findings that I didn't bother including as a slide here was we asked, what was the impact of your AIOps implementation on the relationship between IT and the business? And more than 20% of the respondents, I think it was 21 or 22%, chose the superlative transformative, that AIOps done well had a transformative effect on the relationship of IT with the business. And part of the reason for that is all of the other IT benefits that fall out: increased effectiveness, increased service quality. When service quality goes up, the relationship benefits as well. We asked, how would you characterize the value AIOps brings to your organization relative to the cost? Now, I just talked about a kind of soft value, the IT business alignment. This question asks people to keep cost in mind, and relative to the cost specifically, what is the value? So this is kind of an ROI question. And you'll see here that for those who did not feel it was too early in their implementation to answer, the answers were very strong. We see that at 17% said break even. We offered lower, like not very much, less complimentary values, but they're not on the chart because no one chose them. The lowest level that people chose was break even, with most people selecting high value returned relative to the cost, 41%, or very high. So a very conservative statement would be to say that AIOps done at all well is going to be at the very least a self-funding proposition, if not much more. But these gains are not immediate and they're not easy. We asked a question about implementation complexity. How straightforward or complex was your AIOps implementation? And you'll see that there's an optimistic, cheery little bunch down at the bottom saying it was smooth, but that's an anomaly. It's not easy. It's not smooth. Point of fact, most people found that it was somewhere between straightforward but not easy. Most people found it challenging, and a relatively small percentage said it's very difficult. Doesn't really matter where in there you get. The benefits and the gains are almost guaranteed, but equally, almost without exception, it is going to be complex and difficult. Fair enough, we know that going in. So the next logical question is, what did you find so challenging? Here we have a list. I'm not going to go through them all. What are or were the primary challenges to your AIOps initiatives in your organization? The top one, far and away, is the cost of technologies. I'm tempted to just throw that away. I almost eliminated it from the chart because having been in IT as long as I have, and I'm sure you guys have as well, has there ever been a major IT implementation that cost was not an issue? So if we get rid of cost as the number one challenge to AIOps implementation, lo and behold, we have data accuracy or accessibility as the number one challenge, followed by another favorite, conflicts within IT, and fear of AI as there's a distrust there. So if data is the number one challenge, why is it such a challenge in AIOps? Well, one place to start looking is what are the top business data sources that integrate with your AIOps implementation? And you see here a long list. And again, we don't need to go through them all, but the fact is that there are many business sources of data that go into an AIOps implementation. And then we asked what types of applications are supported by AIOps. And you have cloud native, hybrid, external web, internal web, API, SaaS, mainframe, the whole list. So not only is there a huge volume of data from lots of different business sources, it's coming from so many different application types as well. So no wonder data is such a challenge in AIOps. Now, this next slide is from a completely different set of research that I did on enterprise service management. There, as I always do, I asked about the challenges, and you'll see I've ever so neatly highlighted here in yellow for you that data accessibility and data accuracy top that list too. I took this little detour away from AIOps just to make the point that I'm sure you all know, or you probably wouldn't have signed up for this webinar, that data is a top challenge in every IT automation initiative. But today, we're here to talk about AIOps. So data is either going to be an obstacle or a shortcut to get to your AIOps benefits sooner or later. If you can get a good handle on your data and your data issues, then you directly take a strike against the complexity of AIOps implementation. You take a direct address of the skills shortage, because that's one of the top challenges as well in AIOps implementations. This is a shortcut to skills addressing and cuts down on the resources and costs that are involved. So data is going to be a shortcut or an obstacle. And the CloudFabrix folks are here to show you how it can be a shortcut, which is a perfect time for me to turn this over to Bhaskar from CloudFabrix. Take it away. I'm going on mute. You're muted.
Yeah, no, it should be good. Yeah, now go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Again, thank you, Valerie. Great insights into AIOps. I mean, if you haven't saw her report, or if you haven't listened to her webinar, she went in more depth of, the overall AIOps landscape, benefits, use cases, and challenges. But in this webinar, she, highlighted primary challenges. I think most of the enterprises that we deal with, partners or customers, they're already familiar with, they understand the value of AIOps and, how it is crucial for IT transformation and digital transformation. But what is stopping? What is stopping from the full adoption? How can we accelerate the AIOps adoption, right? So let's take a step back, right? So what is the fundamental premise of AIOps? Okay, where you can pull in data from various sources and make sense of that data to solve your day-to-day operational problems or business issues, right? To do that, you need to be able to pull data from various sources, various environments, various formats of data, so on and so forth, right? So it's all about data, how well you can handle and process the data. One of the analysts gave a very good analogy about this, right? He compared this to crude oil processing, okay? So when you get the crude oil, it is not in a consumable fashion, right? It has to go through the phases so that it can be consumed by either our vehicles or factories or so on and so forth. Data also in the same way. At the source, it is not in a consumable fashion, right? So you need to be able to lot of data operations to really make sense of that data and do the analytics. Okay, so now let's, we understand data is the critical, Valerie, laid out why and, what it is. Let's double click. What are typical data challenges in the context of AIOps, right? The first and foremost is data access and acquisition. The reason, obviously your hybrid IT environment, you want to pull data from your AWS environment, Azure, or your APM tools or your log analytics tool, but every data is in different formats and, and some push, some pull. So there are various things you need to be able to do that. So you need to have an ability to pull that data. But the next one is most important one when we talk to our customers and partners, right? Poor data quality, right? So otherwise, if you don't have the proper data, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? However powerful your ML algorithms are, if your data quality is poor, you are not going to get good insights and analytics, right? So I will give you an example, right? So if you look at any raw alerts coming from any of your management or monitoring systems, you will know how sparse the data is. You can't, a human can't make a quick decision on it unless it is automatically enriched, complete the data that it has, where the alert it belongs to, what application, what infrastructure, so on and so forth, right? So the data quality is one of the most important ones, so that it is more suitable for AIML, right? And the skill set gap, Valerie also pointed out this one, right? Unless, platform provides out of box a lot of these automated data operations capabilities, you have to depend on expensive data engineers or data scientists, right? So these are some of the data challenges we see as part of the AIOps implementation. So how are traditional implementation, how are typically vendors attempting to overcome these data challenges in AIOps or in observability, right? Standard one, throw people at it, right? So either professional services or consulting or, our customers sometimes have to put a lot of the data engineers to do a lot of these data exploration, data preparation, data enrichment manually. It increases your total cost of ownership. It increases your time to value. Right? That's where a lot of AIOps implementation are falling short. So how are we solving at CloudFabrix, right? So at the end of the day, we want to make sure AIOps is adapted and it's much better, faster, and cheaper, right? So we are providing a lot of software bots to simplify and abstract a lot of these data operations and data or ML operations and provide a lot of automation. Right? So that is the only way to overcome, this inherent problem of AIOps, right? So that's how we automate a lot of these operations. So what is the technology behind it? Robotic data automation, that's what we call, by using software bots pipelines and automated workflows, you can achieve what we are just saying. My next speaker, Tejo, will get into a lot more details. But, I mean, maybe when you hear robotic data automation, it sounds familiar, right? So is it sounding like RPA? Yes, in a certain fashion, it uses bots and automation, but RPA automates business process and user tasks, and RDA, our technology, automates data workflow automation and ML workflow automation, right? It is a very low-code platform. It comes with lots of integration bots, and our IT operators can easily put together these end-to-end IT workflows to solve a lot of operational issues. So I'm going to hand off to my next speaker, Tejo, to get into more details of, what are some of the case studies, what are some of the use cases, and give a quick demo, right? But at the end of the day, we want to provide you automation, data automation to accelerate AIOps and AIOps adoption, right?
All right. Thanks, Bhaskar. Yeah. So what is a bot, right? A bot is actually, it allows you to perform atomic tasks that are repeatable and reusable. And these bots run in the RDA platform. And what we have done is we have built a library of more than 500 bots that are available out of the box in the platform, right? And these bots are in like various different categories. Say, for example, with these bots, you can perform data management operations, you can do data integrations, you can do data preparation, data cleansing, data transformations. You can even train AIML models, and we obviously have automation bots as well. So here we have some examples of some bots that are doing, let's say, sending a message to a Slack channel, or getting data from AWS EC2 environments, or doing some data conversions from XML to JSON. And the way you use these bots is by simply invoking its name. So it's very simple to use these bots. Right? Here we have a few more examples of Cisco integration bots, right? All these bots are connecting to Cisco infrastructure devices, Cisco software applications, and they're able to retrieve the data, transform the data, and then send the data into the AIOps platform. Here, a few more examples of AIML Bonds. Right, so here you can train AIML models, and then you can also do predictions. You can do text analytics, and we even have integrations with external NLP services. Say, for example, IBM Watson we have integration with, and we also have integrations with OpenAI, and so that you can do NLP processing and text analytics in the AIOps platform. So what can you do with these pre-built bots? Right? So there are many different operations you can do, starting with data access and data acquisition. No matter what is your environment, whether it's edge environment, whether it's cloud, data center, or a SaaS application, we have various different integration bots that connect to these systems and allow you to transform and shape the data for AIOps consumption. Similarly, you can do exploratory data analysis. You can perform data integrity checks. You can do data masking for security purposes. The most important operation is data enrichment, because if you see the raw data that comes into your AIOps platform, generally it does not have a lot of context around an application or a service, right? So we are actually able to enrich the data by taking in data from various different sources and make it more usable for AIOps. You can do data transformations, doing data streaming you can do, and another thing is also you can do data simulation, which is very important to actually accelerate your AIOps implementation. And you can also do task automations. And there are a lot more activities that you can do. We have actually all these bots listed in our website, and you can go through that to understand a little bit more about these bots. And another thing is these bots can actually also work together to accomplish complex workflows, right? So traditionally, if you see, before you implement AIOps, you would be doing data integration, you would have to do some kind of data data prep or data transformation. And all of these were done manually, and with these bots, now you are actually able to automate and make these bots work together to accomplish even complex workflows. And a unique aspect here is that these workflows are implemented in a low-code approach. So what this means is you don't have to be a data scientist, you don't have to be a programming expert, you don't need to know Python language. These workflows are simply implemented in a markup-like language, and it is very easy to implement. Anybody in the IT professional field can actually implement these pipelines, right? And you also don't need to have specialized domain skills for each and every integration, right? So let's say if you want to integrate with Splunk or VMware or AppDynamics or other kind of logging system, all of these different integrations, all the kinds of data is completely normalized within our platform. And with this approach, you will also be able to address a lot more use cases, not just event correlation, not just incident MTTR reduction. So those are table stakes use cases, but with this setup, you can actually address a lot more use cases. And we are actually even making it even more easier to use these bots by creating something called solution packs, which actually packages together the relevant data sets, relevant bots and configurations and pipelines. All of them put together will make it even more easy to use these bots to go after certain use cases or scenarios. Now, how do you interact with these bots? And this is where our tool AIOps Studio comes into picture, right? And AIOps Studio is a visual collaborative environment where you can actually build your pipelines, you can test your pipelines, you can collaborate with your colleagues, and finally, once these pipelines are ready, you can then actually publish these pipelines into the runtime platform. So how are our customers fast-tracking the AIOps with these bots, right? And here is an example of one of our customers, a large financial organization, and we were working with the enterprise command center team. And the setup they have is many different applications, many different lines of business, and these applications are being monitored by various different tools. And they wanted to implement AIOps. But the challenge was with the data, right? So the data was not readily accessible, and it was not ready to be ingested into AIOps. And they were doing a lot of these operations manually, understanding the quality of the data, understanding the metadata, and how to combine various different data sets to enrich the data. And this took a long time, and we were able to go in, we automated all of this process with our bots and pretty much able to do the data prep in a couple of weeks. So let us see how it looks. I'm just going to spend a few minutes on the demo. So I will walk through a couple of scenarios here. So let's say just to keep it simple for the demonstration purpose, we will walk through this scenario where a customer ask was to detect changes happening in a AWS EC2 environment, right? And here we will implement this with two pipelines. One is a pipeline where you get the data from AWS region using the bots. And then in a second pipeline, we actually will help in detecting the changes that are happening in the AWS environment. Traditionally, if you see, this would have to be done using a lot of software engineering resources. You would have to probably develop some scripts or microservices to do this. But here we will be able to simply implement this with bots and pipelines. And there are also other scenarios. For example, some of our customers have asked to do some very much custom incident processing by doing some text analytics, by doing some workflow automation, and also sending out messages on a Slack channel and updating the incident with these insights. And we are also able to implement this kind of scenarios. And this is another scenario where if you want to update a life cycle insights within your incident console, we are also able to do that. And I will demonstrate this first use case. So here we are now looking at our AIOps Studio, and this is where you can interact with the bots and the pipelines. And this is the welcome screen with the version number and the links to the documentation you have. And all the tasks that you do in the studio, you can perform from here. So typically you will be first establishing connectivity to various data sources, right? Let's say you want to connect to AWS, you provide the access key and secret key and the regions, and you're done, right? It's a one-time activity. And you can connect to various different data sources from here. And once you do that, then you will be typically doing the exploration of the bots. Let's say you want to understand, hey, what are the various ML bots that are available, right? So we have various bots available here which can do the training and the prediction. Let's say you want to look for NLP bots. We have all the NLP bots listed here. And the most important ones are the data management bots, right? So here you can see we have quite a comprehensive list of these data management bots that will allow you to do data transformations, data conversions, data shaping, and so on, right? This is the typical activity you would be doing. And then you would be also doing the exploratory data analysis, right? Say, for example, you want to understand your data sets. You want to understand the metadata of your data sets. Then you can also do it from here. So I'll be spending more time on the pipelines here, where you can add a pipeline or edit a pipeline. You can obviously do solution packages, import and export into the platform. So let's go into this pipeline here. So this is the pipeline. This is how simple it is, right? It just looks like a template, like a markup language. And I'll quickly walk through this. So all the green color highlighted text you see that here, these are the bots, okay? And these arrows, they indicate this is a new stage in the pipeline, right? So it's very simple. Right now, what it is doing is getting the data from AWS EC2 environment from these regions. And now we are starting to do the data operations, right? Here, what we are saying is, hey, for our use case, we just want to select these columns. So we are trying to reduce the data here. And then we are saving in a baseline data set. And then we are actually pushing out the data into a dashboard, okay? So just to kind of show you the reference, this is a dashboard I have set up. This is a Kibana dashboard, which is also packaged along with our RDA platform. And this is the actual AWS environment. So once we run this pipeline, you will see that this data being pulled into this platform and the dashboards getting updated. So let's go ahead and run this pipeline. It's simply execute. Click on the execute button. So what is now happening is it is actually executing the pipeline. It's talking to the AWS, getting the data into the platform. And once it is done, all of these stages in the pipeline, they will be highlighted. Right, so right now the execution is completed. We got the data for 51 VMs, and you can now actually go and inspect data at each and every stage of the pipeline, right? Say, for example, here we started off with 53 columns, but we reduced the data. We only selected the data that we want, and we have 5 columns here. And let's say if you want to go and look for the South region, which is what we were looking at, we have 4 VMs and 3 stopped, 1 running, and that is what we are also seeing here, right? 3 stopped, 1 running. And if you go and see this dashboard, we actually even updated the dashboard just with a simple bot. We were able to send all the data to external dashboards. So once we do the, change one of the VMs and then run the pipelines again, we will be able to do the change detection, and these dashboards, these widgets will be highlighted. So a couple of other examples, right? I was talking about the incident example. This is a little bit more elaborate workflow, but again, a very simple workflow where we are taking an incident, we are trying to do the text analytics using the Watson bots and OpenAI bots. Then we are triggering an Ansible playbook, and then finally we are sending out messages on a Slack channel and then updating the incident. So I executed this workflow, and the result is that if you go back to a ServiceNow incident console, here we have an incident which is talking about a virtual machines getting shut down. So we provided all this text analytics within the incident console itself by executing that workflow, right? So here you see that it's a negative sentiment. We have some suggested assignment groups, and also the named entity recognition and the text analytics. Right. So yeah, and this is another use case where we are taking an incident and updating the CI lifecycle insights, and you can see that here we have a Catalyst 3750 switch, which is actually already end of support. We were able to go and query a Cisco API and update this incident back with the lifecycle insights. So again, so to summarize, this is AIOps Studio is a place where you are going to interact with all the bots and all the pipelines, and this is our website. So if you go to the bot library, this is where you will see all the bots, and anytime you want to look for certain bots, you can actually type it here, go to the bot library, and this is a page where you can look for these bots. So just to kind of summarize the key benefits of this AIOps enabled with RDA, right? We are seeing that our customers are able to accelerate and simplify AIOps. The primary challenge that they are facing is especially with this data access, data acquisition, data preparations and transformations, and we are able to automate that with our bots. The second benefit that we are seeing is this RDA has actually opened up the AIOps value prop itself. They are now able to address a lot more use cases, primarily in the IT service management and also in the asset planning area. They are able to address a lot more use cases. And we are also seeing that they're able to bring the DevOps agility to AIOps, because with these pipelines, you can actually build these pipelines, iterate on it, and once it is ready, you can then push it to a production environment. So it is also helping in the faster time to market. So if you want to learn more and get started with RDA, you can go to this website and sign up. It's a completely free cloud-hosted version. You can just sign up within a few minutes, and we also have a video on how to get started with RDA and the AIOps Studio. And let me quickly show that. Yeah, so here is the place where you can go and do a free sign up. So at this point, I will hand it back to Raleigh.
Great. Thank you for that informative presentation. If you have questions, you can log them now. I wanted to let the audience know that I will also be sending these links so you can access them in the email that you will receive later today. Jumping into the questions, Tejo or Bhaskar, you can both chime in, or one of you can take this question, but it is, I know your company has an AIOps platform. My question is two parts. When it comes to RDA, can it be standard without the platform? And if someone has your AIOps platform, is RDA embedded, or do we need to install it separately?
You want to take that one? Yeah. So first of all, this RDA can be also consumed as a standalone platform. So it's embedded within our AIOps, but we are seeing more and more use cases and more customer asks around, can we use RDA by itself? Especially they want to do some use cases around data observability, doing data sharing and data movement from traditional or legacy environments to a cloud environment. So for that reason, RDA is also available as a standalone platform. And when somebody is consuming our AIOps, our enterprise customers, our cloud customers, when they purchase AIOps from us, RDA is already embedded within the AIOps.
Great, thank you. The next question that came in is, what programming language do we need to use for writing pipelines?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So that is one of the reasons, again, as Valerie pointed out, the skill set gap. You don't need to know JavaScript. You don't need to know Python or programming languages, right? So as Tejo demonstrated, this is mostly like a natural markup language, right? So it is pretty easily understandable, and many of our partners and customers, it hardly took few hours to familiar with bots and corresponding operations.
Excellent, thank you. Can customers build their own bots, and if so, how?
Yes, absolutely. At this point, I mean, our vision is to, Tejo already shown that our bot library, right? So primarily, CloudFabrix is offering, building a lot of those software bots, but some of our partners also started developing those bots. So there is a certification program, a training program. It is not hard how you can extend existing or create new bots. But yeah, absolutely, we want to create this bot ecosystem where customers and partners also can develop and extend software bots.
That's great. I'm guessing RDA can send data to other platforms. How?
Yes, absolutely, yes. So RDA can send data to any platform, like whether it is, first of all, it can send data to our platforms too, but, for other platforms, it can send to various different BI dashboards or other kind of cloud systems. And we have integration bots for that. That's how we can send data to these other platforms. And if you need to have a new integration or a new bot built for that, we can obviously help there, or you can also do with the upcoming SDK.
Good to know, thank you. I have one more question. This attendee wants to know, how would this be done without bots? Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah, so that's a good question, right? So many can think, hey, can we do the same with either scripts or, different languages and all? Yes, obviously, a lot of this can be automated using scripts and, manually creating some programs and all. But the whole concept of this bots is, it abstracts a lot of the complexity, number one, and it can be reusable and repeatable for various pipelines. For example, what Tejo shown, either ServiceNow incident NLP processing or AWS, now one of you might have a slightly different use case where you want to pull that data for different reasons, right? You can quickly take the existing pipeline and change it. So basically, it promotes, a lot of simplicity, and it abstracts a lot of the complexity behind the integrations and the data operations, and it makes it a lot more simpler, right? So you don't need to, as we said, we don't need to hire data scientists and all to really figure this out. A lot of our IT operations and IT engineers were able to quickly put together these pipelines using the software bots. So it is much maintainable, reusable, and repeatable using our software bots and pipelines.
Excellent information. Thank you. And I wanted to thank our audience for taking time out of your schedule to join us. As I mentioned, you will be receiving a follow-up email from EMA. They'll include resources from today's event. So I hope you'll check that out, and I hope that you'll learn more about CloudFabrix. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope we'll see you at a future EMA research webinar.
Thank you all.